Hello and welcome to Culture Reset. I'm Caroline Kenyon, co-host of this podcast about how to create a healthy workplace culture.
And I'm Juliette Kumar, a coach and co-host with Caroline, and together we're finding out how to create the best environment for success and for a happy workplace.
And in this episode, we're joined by someone whose mission is to get everyone moving more and to create healthier workplaces. Jean-Jacques Sillito provides health intervention schemes. Hi and welcome, Jean-Jacques. Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. I'm Jean-Jacques Sillito, or Jacqui, and I provide physical activity interventions for local authority kind of workforce.
Great. So, Jean-Jacques, I've known you for a few years now, and I go to the gym where you work, and I know how passionate about exercise you are, and I remember how you really developed the idea of supporting the wider workforce through exercise. And I'm a firm believer that it can take just one person in a team or an organisation to change a culture, to really disrupt the norms. So can you tell us a little bit about how your idea grew and what you think it has done for the organisational culture in the council? Yeah,
so I think obviously we have known each other for a good few years, I think going up to nearly 15 years. So to save the listeners that kind of whole experience, it's in short, I've been a big advocate for preventative healthcare, kind of upstream kind of healthcare, free physical activity. So looking after individuals before they need serious kind of interventions, such as, surgery, etc. So by looking after individuals, I think you can really demonstrate an effective way that you can look after populations. So in short, that's what it is, an individual bespoke approach, taking the time to get to know an individual's needs, motivations, preferences, and then delivering that supported through a workplace culture.
Yeah, that's great. And how did you get the council to support your ideas? Because I do remember you were really enthusiastic about this concept, and you were working with GP referrals. You set up a little a little physiotherapy unit, so you did some really great work. But then taking that small idea for yourself as a single person in quite a large organisation, how did you get the traction needed to get into the position where you are now, where you've got the role that is about supporting people who are sick from work, or getting them back into the workplace and getting them happier and healthier, so that they're there well at work?
Yeah, I think there's really a few themes that connect that, but I think individual development's key. So to change an organisation, you can look for changes within yourself. So for me, I was a very, very active practitioner, working with all kinds of different health populations, going from elite athletes with the swimming groups, work through general population, and then into clinical kind of programming for the GP referral clients, as you said. So within that, you kind of develop a broad rounded kind of set of skills that you can reward and kind of bring that to the community. So I was very keen to make that more widely available. And there's certain kind of restrictions and barriers in place, which are, things out of your control as an individual, economic, political, etc. So to move past that, I kind of developed myself to articulate myself in different ways. So academically as well as practitioner-led. And by making those kind of worlds understand each other, I think you can really effectively demonstrate through practice how these things move forwards. So in answer to your question, it's all about kind of recognizing the change that you want to make within an organization, within a culture or population, and making those changes within yourself.
And I think what you're hitting on, and Caroline might want to come in, is communicating in the right way, isn't it? And different levels to different people within the organisation. Did you find you had to do that?
I think looking for different ways to communicate is really something I've really explored. So coming from a background where I wasn't encouraged through structured education, undiagnosed dyslexic, so to kind of get to an academic level at doctoral level where you can kind of put these things in place that have made sense within that specific kind of peer group. That was challenging, because I had to really strip back and understand how to do that. So that was a real big personal journey for me, and continues to be. Excuse me. But in order to kind of demonstrate that to populations and communicate to different tiers of management, different workforces, we've got a universal language, which is health. Okay, so how do you access health, free physical activity, you participate, you live the experience. So that is, if you like, the kind of overarching kind of theme of it, is that by participation, through practice, through a shared experience, you gain knowledge. And by inviting everyone in to experience that, then there's actually a lived experience. It's really valuable, and alongside training modules and these different things that we have through organisations. But for me, I'm a real big advocate of encouraging individuals to actively get involved.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask how the situation at the Liverpool City Council has fed into what you're doing? There's been a big turnaround, a big programme for improvement by the government commissioners coming in to support City Council through a big period of change. Their final report in June was really positive. All those problems are very much in the past now. But how has that period matched with what you've been doing? Has it helped you in some way?
I think that, having an open conversation about how we can better experience for populations to be healthier and happier is always going to be welcome. And I think we should kind of like find ways to make that understood through practice and demonstrate through whatever we can do. So I think having that those external factors that are really influential on guiding kind of new practices was key. But once again, going back to what I said there, of that universal kind of like communication point of actively doing something and experiencing the benefits, I'm always kind of like gearing people into doing that. So I knew I could kind of tailor things in and around experience and participation alongside with the kind of frameworks and the strategies that are being put in place. So once again, expanding my knowledge base into what is available, what's going on, what is the path of least resistance to essentially reward and benefit staff with better health and well-being.
Because there's obviously been a push on improving the culture, improving the morale of staff, and well-being is part of that, isn't it? So that culture change that has been going on, presumably what you've been doing has been integral to that.
It's certainly exercise and physical activity is definitely a vehicle for change. So for a change for an individual. So if we look at that from a very, very, aesthetic point of view, we're quite used to seeing Instagram posts of before and afters. We see that transition. Vehicles for change in terms of understanding and perceptions, but also for organisations to change culture. I think, essentially the core components of investing in your own health and well-being is a transformative process. So you can align those transformations inside with what the cultural kind of, with the organisational kind of like pathway is going to be, but knowing full well that the kind of like the essence of transformation through physical activity and well-being kind of pursuits is universally sound. Okay.
Because you can't do one without the other, really, can you? You can't simply lay on exercise, movement for your staff without making the other behaviours change in order to support a healthier culture. So a healthier culture isn't just about exercise, but exercise can't do it alone. But similarly, I suppose changing the culture means you have to then invest in things like more exercise.
So making that communicable to a corporation. So if there's been an intention to change cultures, then there's something to change from. And I think that the very, very supported view of kind of like health and well-being within an organisation is attendance, sickness management. And I think that is the end result of maybe not upstreaming, like kind of looking after individuals before they get to that stage. So if you can positively impact those kind of like figures on a spreadsheet, which might be absence figures, which might be, other kind of metrics that we look for within an organisation, then you're demonstrating and making it communicable that what your intervention is doing is actually having a positive effect on the population that you're dealing with. So once again, changing that perspective from what might be a very two-dimensional 1980s view on a spreadsheet to see what the numbers are, we can put that into feelings, but we could also translate that into kind of being more of a kind of like individual approach for how they're experiencing their work-life culture and how they're best being supported to stay happy and healthy.
And Juliet, we heard from John Herring, didn't we, in a previous podcast?
Yes.
About how it isn't enough just to, as he put it, lay on yoga classes and think you've done the job of improving culture.
Yeah, absolutely. It can feel like you're doing something and that, you've ticked that box. But actually, if you don't change the leadership and the ethos around the whole organisation, it's really just a sticking plaster. So the whole strategy needs to be behind it. The training and development of the wider staff group, that it needs to be a holistic approach rather than just, we'll put on some exercise or we'll help someone get back to work by giving them some training sessions,
I think you're totally right there. And I think, once again, a good way to articulate that is through lived experience. And I have had people coming onto the scheme who obviously have come there through whatever reason. We've worked through various different kind of training modalities and all on this kind of idea of being individual, bespoke, fitting for your needs, different locations, etc. And then the positive experiences that have come out of that have resulted in those staff taking up physical activity as a deliverer. So when we're talking about yoga sessions, there's one specific example where someone's come through the scheme, been supported to such a degree they've taken on a yoga course, and now they deliver to other staff, which is scheduled on the wellbeing program. So that's a really good example of our lived experience and participation, and the potential positive outcomes of that can cascade out into, like as you mentioned there, it's not just a training module. You're not going to, we've got this available. It's something that can be lived, breathed, felt, and kind of put into a place that's really valuable for peer groups, for staff. So I think that's really the message I'm conveying, is that kind of lived experience, that participation, those positive outcomes can really kind of resonate deeply with like staff, so as it's like, or populations, to make sure that that's something that they can access.
That's fantastic. And that just only increases the capacity and capabilities within the organisation for access to these things, doesn't it?
And it ties into, when we first met there, that kind of like community experience of it being so openly available. I'd often refer to the gym environments, particularly local authority kind of leisure centres, as being a positive pub. So if you have a look at the community groups that are going in there, you have a look at the conversations that are being had, you have a look at the engagements that are happening, the social cohesion, that's all, facilitated through the health and well-being of physical activity. So being able to place that into different areas, different environments, work cultures, different settings, that we know that kind of community vibe is going to kind of really, really just start to be encouraged and start to naturally, organically grow. So how do we best do that? That's the question. You've
always used that language in the gym, haven't you, as a community? I remember you always talking about individual gym members being great parts of the community and bringing individual skills, compassion, kindness, connection, all that thing we get from the gym, don't we, when we go?
Well, those intrinsic values of just camaraderie, of health, of that focal point being about everyone working for maybe different specifics, but similar kind of general kind of goals, and the kind of cohesiveness that comes from that is just really rewarding. And I don't think you can, if we were talking from a corporate or a kind of work kind of communication, you can't get that from a spreadsheet. You can't get that from a PowerPoint presentation. You can't get that from the usual kind of communication channels. So the only way to do that is immerse yourself and kind of feel those kind of values and experience it, and that becomes more valuable, and that kind of spreads, if you like. So that's the tough bit, is to communicate that in a way that will be widely understood.
It's that old adage, isn't it? Health is wealth. And I think we saw that through the pandemic, that actually when we're not looking after people, or if people are sick, our economy suffers. So the question is is more what happens if you don't look after your workforce and you don't encourage these healthy initiatives and, provide space to do some of these things.
Yeah, and I think that goes into the reactive, proactive kind of approach, doesn't it? So we're reacting to maybe sickness management, and we could be proactive about well-being promotion, and that's the same end goals, but you're looking at it from a different point of view. And I think that perceptional change, I think with I've got a lovely little metaphor in my mind. I see things visually, right? And I think to change the course of, here we are in Liverpool, we've got the ocean, obviously the very, very historical waterfronts, and to change the direction of a massive cruise ship or an industrial kind of vehicle in the water, it's going to take a lot of effort and time, but slowly changing that 1 degree at a time, and we could all end up on, the utopian island of well-being.
Jean-Jacques, your work is part of Liverpool City Council's wider organisation development plan. And when we interviewed the council's Chief Operating Officer, Jacqui McKinlay, recently, we asked her what she thought about what you're doing. Here's what she said.
He's having an amazing impact in the council, and we're so lucky to have him. He previously worked in one of our leisure centres, and we've poached him into the corporate centre of the organisation and put him within our HR and OD team to have the biggest impact possible. And he's a kind of force of nature himself as an individual, hugely informed by what he wants to do, hugely evidence-based, and we're really pleased and proud of the impact that he's having, both as an individual and influencing the rest of the culture. I think we've learned a lot from him. And, I talked about how the impact of individuals on the council, while a lot was going on that wasn't supporting them, has been testament to them. What we're now trying to do is create those conditions where they can have an even bigger impact. And JJ works as part of a team with Josh and a part of the wider corporate health and wellbeing team, where what we're trying to do is work out how can we now start to connect the work that they're all doing together, because the biggest challenges we've got, as lots of other organisations have got, is around mental health, is around sickness absence, and that's where we really need to take this, but amazing individual.
So what else has been done at the council, apart from what Jean-Jacques is doing? What else are you doing to support staff's mental and physical well-being?
It's probably one of the areas where, and I don't think Liverpool City Council is alone in this, where particularly after COVID, I think we probably had quite a traditional approach, where we'd operate at the kind of, the sticky end of occupational health and intervention and employee assistance programmes. Whereas, and it used to be, we talk about work-life balance, didn't we? We now know there's no such thing really, is there? Everyone brings their whole self into work, and the demographics of our workforce, particularly, as people get older, they're often dealing with really big challenges. If you're employing people who are 45 plus, they're dealing with, aging parents, children, their own health issues. So we've had to really look again at what that means from a wellbeing point of view, but also what that means recognising that not everyone wants to bring their health issues and mental health issues to the workplace or want support from the workplace for them. So what we've tried to do, and this is still a work in progress for us, is have we got the right interventions and the support that JJ and Josh and his team? Have we got the right support when things get really difficult and they might need employee assistance? But also, how do we make their day-to-day lives with us supportive of good health, mental health, physical health, well-being? And that's the challenge, and we've talked a lot about change. People managing change and going through change can be one of the most stressful times. So what we're looking at is, through our transformation programme, are we including well-being as part of that and moving it on from being, not about beanbags and yoga all the time. Sometimes it's just about listening. It's about recognising how people react to change. So it's trying to embed well-being in everything we do. I think one of the other challenges that we've got is we do have a lot of really demanding professions, children's social care, adult social care, people dealing with really difficult situations. So it's trying to physical lifting, etc. So it's trying also to be as bespoke as possible. So instead of wondering why a team's having lots of sickness absence due to mental health issues or backache, it's getting in, understanding what the jobs are and getting that support to be much more targeted.
So there's lots going on. And what's your hope for the future for the workplace culture? What does good look like?
I think from a wellbeing point of view, you've got to hope that your work adds positively to your health and well-being as an individual. Mm-hmm. Because we know life can be really difficult at times. And, if you're also having to deal with a job that either is impacting on your mental health, impacting on your physical health, then that's not what you're pact with your employer is. So that's a kind of dream outcome, that should be the basic as well, shouldn't it? Really what we want is that work positively contributes to you. It's a place where you feel like you're thriving, you can bring your whole self. You know, we've got great staff networks for, you know, every protected characteristic. We're just launching an early careers network. So we also want to be a place where positively it's adding to you as an individual. You're feeling like you're learning, you're feeling like you're being supported. If you're stressed, you're feeling like you're getting the right sort of support. And that we know that'll take, there's no silver bullet there. That's going to take lots of different types of, employing lots of different people means you need lots of different approaches. People can choose what they want from that. So, you know, a workplace where people can thrive, feel like we're adding to their health and well-being, not detracting from it. But also we will need to kind of move with the times a little bit. You know, we're seeing some real challenges from whichever generation or young generation or I live with a few of them, so I can see. But, you know, they'll bring different asks of an employer that we won't necessarily get with some of our older workforce. So, you know, the future won't be one that's quite static. I think we're going to have to continue to listen and learn as to how we can help them in the most appropriate way. And, you know, I don't think any of us have cracked that one yet.
That is a great testimonial from Jacqui. Jean-Jacques, is this your dream job?
I think it's, I mean, the enthusiasm's not wavered over 15 years, but slowly maybe barriers, restrictions have been lifted, and by being in charge of lifting those barriers or articulating yourself in a different way, that's really rewarding. So rather than it being something that was like maybe like a dream job, seems like, you know, I don't know, being something that's external. This is something that's internal, that's kind of like I'm articulating in a way that's, it's only the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? There's so much to do. So it's never going to be an end goal. It's always going to be developing, and that's not just me, is it? It's everyone. So everyone's involved in this whole journey, and we're all going along for the ride in terms of looking after our own health and seeing how that works in our own communities, and resonating with that positive pub, you know, getting down to that vibe. So yeah, that makes me happy, but I wouldn't say it's like a finished destination. We're definitely still on that boat veering towards wherever we're going.
Great. So, Caroline, do we need to leave it there?
I think we need to leave it there. I think it's time to roll out those yoga mats. And for me, it's yoga mat, not run. So.
Okay. Fabulous. Let's get them out.
Thank you so much, Jean-Jacques.
Thank you.
And it's goodbye from Caroline, me and Juliet and Jean-Jacques. And hopefully you'll tune in next time. There'll be some useful links in the podcast notes. Do subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of Culture Reset.